This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone. What an incredibly exciting start to today's drive. We have a scorpion right in front of us, and I cannot wait to tell you all about it. So buckle up, everyone. It's time for your live safari through the African bush. What an exciting start. I don't think I have ever gone live with a scorpion before. Welcome, everyone. It's your sunset safari of today. My name is Lauren. I do have Simon on camera, and we do have a scorpion. Now, I'm not going to lie to any of you. This scorpion was in my bedroom, and we had to relocate it. As lovely as my bedroom is, unfortunately, it can't stay there. So I think this is a tree creeper. It's one of the mildly venomous ones, so please do not worry, anyone. I'm not putting myself in danger right now. But, of course, this is your live safari. This action with the scorpion is happening right now, so you must talk to us. Please send all your comments and questions through. Jokes, if you must. Use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, at FC on the YouTube chat. You can head to the website wildearth.tv/explorers. And kids, you email us. Yes, you use that wonderful thing on the tinternet called email. Kids questions at wildearth.tv. So, scorpions are normally nocturnal, which is why we really don't see them. They come out in summer too. Now, I'm going to move out of the way very shortly, but I just want to point something out. You see at the front end, his pincers. Now, these pincers are huge in comparison to his tail. You can see, I don't know if Simon can give you a view, you can see the sting. This is where the venom comes out. All scorpions are venomous, but they have different levels of venom. Some are highly venom, and some are just mildly venomous. This one, I believe, is mildly venomous. And you can see, because of the proportion of the pincers to the tail, you can see that this species right here, there's many different species of scorpions, relies more on its pincers. This is how it catches its prey rather than its tail. Now, if it was the other way around, if it was a big, fat, bulbous tail and tiny little pincers, then you would know that it relies more on the sting to catch its prey rather than the pincers. So I'm going to move out of the way now so that I can come back into comms with FC. And Simon will give you beautiful views of the scorpion. Now, they're arachnids. They've got 8 legs, so they're not insects, as much as people would maybe like to think they're insects. They're absolutely not. They're arachnids. And similar to spiders, you can see that straight away from the fact that they have 8 legs. Can you believe we are viewing this right now? I'm going to jump on the car. The camera might shake a little bit. There we go. That's my body weight happening right there. So the actual tail, the sting part, is called the telson, and you can see it. It flips its tail using muscular contractions, and bam, the sting will hit the prey. And of course, sometimes it can hit humans too, which is rather unfortunate. Now, I could be wrong, but I really do think it is a tree-creeping scorpion, and they're quite common. They are mildly venomous, as I mentioned, and they do like to stay in trees, believe it or not. They're quite docile. They're described as shy. And we did rescue it from the room and released it, because unfortunately it just cannot live with me. As much as I would love it, it's not going to work. That relationship's not going to work. So I think it's the Opisthocanthes asper, but any scorpion experts can disagree with me. Riley, you're asking about symptoms. So all scorpions have neurotoxic venom. There's different types of toxins in the animal kingdom, and they attack different parts of one's anatomy, really. And a neurotoxic venom will attack the central nervous system. So it's quite severe, but not all the venoms are in such high concentrations to do a lot of damage. And when it attacks, I've just been stung by something, sorry. Ow. Not the scorpion, don't worry. So when you are stung, it's going to be extremely painful. You're going to suffer from, I imagine, pain at the bite. They say that neurotoxic venom will be really, really painful at the actual site of the bite. You will feel it immediately. There's no way that you will not know that you've been bitten. And I think you get severe headaches, dizziness, you may even collapse. Depending on the severity, you may of course go into respiratory failure or shock as well, but not from this little guy. Now, I'm sure some of you might be a little bit scared of scorpions, and I understand that, but they really are incredible animals, as they all are. You have two main families. You have the Scorpionidae, and this is what... This is what this guy belongs to. Large pincers, small stings. Scorpionidae. Now, the other family is the Butidae. This family has very small pincers and large stings, the worrying ones. Hariko, you're saying scorpions are just a misunderstood species. Exactly. Aren't they all? Sharks, jellyfish, spiders, hyenas, scorpions. And yes, you can get injured if you put your hand somewhere and you don't realize there's a scorpion there. It will sting you to defend itself, but it's not going to really be aggressive towards you. We have a lot of scorpions in our camp, and you can just sort of let them be. You will require medical attention, urgent medical attention if you're stung by the sort of Butidae family. And the famous ones are the Parabutis. They are the ones that you really don't want to encounter. You don't want them in your bedroom. But this little guy's alive, I promise. That's just because they're nocturnal. Really, during the day, they're totally inactive. And this is a survival trait because they're able to lower their metabolic rate and go unfed for long periods of time. They're ectothermic. So they'll sort of store up the energy from today, and this little guy will become very active at night time. It's amazing. And believe it or not, sometimes the males can sting their mates to calm them down during courtship. Yikes. Does not sound very romantic or loving to me. But of course, they're immune to their own venom. So the male will just give the female a little sting, calm her down and say, hey girl, it's chill, we got this. But wow, that's quite a technique in reproduction, that's for sure. But they can regulate the amount of venom that they inject, believe it or not, through muscular contractions. So if it's a huge threat, if it's an imminent danger right in front of them, they can inject a lot of venom. Whereas if it's their mate, one would hope that it's just a small dash of venom. They're not poisonous. Poison would be the wrong word. They're all venomous. Lazy Boy, you are asking about their reproduction, basically. And they do lay eggs. They've got quite an unusual sort of interesting way of finding one another in this big bad world. So the male will use his sort of sensory organs to locate a female who's left a pheromone trail. She'll leave a trail behind her, and well, he has to follow it to get the prize. And once he gets the prize, I believe that's a good question. I think there's two ways of giving birth in scorpions, believe it or not. Some species actually have eggs that hatch inside of the body and then are released. They're alive when they emerge. And other species, they're actually born alive after quite a long gestation period. It's long. Oh, there we go. It's moving. Ooh. That was a bit of a nosedive. It's longer than most mammals. I'm sure some species of scorpions can actually have a gestation period of up to 18 months. Can you believe it? It's a very long time, double the length of mammals, of course. But I think there's both ways of reproduction in answer to your question, depending on the species. Some eggs will hatch inside, some will be given live birth. Ovoviviparous or viviparous is different ways when you are describing birth in different organisms. I think he's gone, I'm afraid. Well, that was a great way to start the drive. I think that's literally the first time I've gone live with the scorpion. So, as we bumble on to see what else we can see, we're going to send you across to Deirdre to say good afternoon.
So I almost want to have a scorecard for that scorpion doing a nosedive. I haven't seen it yet, but I'd probably maybe give it an 8 out of 10. I've never seen a nose-diving scorpion. Welcome to Tswalu. You with me, Deirdre, and Darby on camera. And our plan this afternoon, and I'm out the vehicle, I'm busy looking for tracks of a... Should we tell them? Too late now, I've spilt the beans. So we are going to be looking for a female cheetah with 3 cubs. So I'm looking for the tracks because she's in this area, so we're in the right area. We just have to find her. She sometimes moves during the day just to keep her cubs safe, so they'll often lie in the shade for a little bit, 10, 20 minutes, half an hour, and then get up, move, go lie somewhere else, and that's just an effective way of staying out of the predator's way. But I haven't seen any yet. I've only seen some wildebeest tracks, and a wildebeest would be far too large for her to try and take down on her own. But if there are wildebeest calves, maybe there's a chance for her. Let's see. Oh, you just see all the butterflies. The wind is blowing very strongly. It's actually blowing all over. It's almost blowing a northerly, but a little bit all over, and all the brown-veined whites from the last few days, you're actually just seeing them go past. It amazes me that they're all going in the same direction. There's none that are just going to be heading up the trail and want to be different. They are all going towards the west. And so they've started their immigration towards Johannesburg, across South Africa. It's just a nice windy. I haven't seen any tracks. Maybe we should drive a bit, Darby, and then we can see if we can find any more tracks. You can stick with us. We're going to take you through our little blackthorn thicket and see what we got. Don't forget to send us any of your questions at #WildEarth and then put at FC in the front. And those questions help us with information on drive. Sometimes you're standing in a spot and you think, well, what do I talk about now? And those questions certainly help us give you more information, and also sometimes take us on a tangent that we can tell you something else. So we would also get a burrowing scorpion here. We've got 8 different scorpion species at Tswalu, and we get one called a Parabuthus. We actually get 3 Parabuthus species, and they're incredibly venomous. They sit sort of closer to the 8, 9, 10 level on the venom scale. Definitely don't want to be zapped by one of those. One of them, the Parabuthus, the granulatus, is the one that quite likely could book you an appointment in hospital as well. So these are the kinds of areas that those cheetah would like. There's some nice taller camel thorn trees with some shade, so we're just going to keep looking under the shady spots. Asking the question, do we get king cheetah in Tswalu? So no, not that we've recorded, because to suddenly one day.
know what happened to Pridelands there. Sorry about that. We're actually surrounded by wildlife. We've got some black and white horses, some Impala, and just keep creeping through the long grass behind us. The Impalas look a little bit wary. We have baboons. Now, the grass is almost as tall as them. Excuse our aerial. They're right behind the car. You see that? You can only see their little heads popping up. It's not often we see baboons here. Now, they are around, but it's not often on drive that you will actually find them. And luckily for us, these baboons really don't come into camp. They can cause mass destruction, baboons, when they get sort of into an area where the humans co-inhabit. The vervet monkeys are enough devastation for us, and this morning they stole every single one of our bananas. It was a big sigh. I love bananas. As you all know, I eat banana and peanut butter. Well, I can only have peanut butter now. These monkeys know exactly where the bananas are, so they just wait for a window in, grab the bananas and out. I think we need to maybe change the location of where we keep the bananas, spice it up a little bit. But luckily, we've not had any problems with baboons. We have in the past, but they're very, very fierce animals. And they're omnivores, so they will eat almost anything, especially things that they can find in camps. Fruit, grass, seeds, bulbs, insects, small birds, small mammals. They will really eat anything they can get their hands on. They're not fussy. And their name, which I'm probably going to pronounce very horribly, Cynocephalus.
Just to the eastern side of Jakarta.
Sorry. Latin names have meanings. They all have meanings. Every single species has a Latin name and has all been given that Latin name for a reason. And for the baboons, Cynocephalus, if I'm saying it right, it literally means dog head. Yes, because they have a dog-like shaped head. I think there maybe could have been a better choice, but you know. They're heading right towards Trumpeta House. I think we're going to lose them soon in the long grass, so. Oh, we've got them. Well done, Simon. Comment you're asking, do baboons sometimes attack humans? And I've never personally heard of it, but I believe there are incidents that have been reported where they attack humans. They can be really vicious, and I think this would mostly happen in areas around human civilizations, maybe where in a camp, for example, and there's a bit of a clash. But I've never heard of a specific incident, but I do believe it has happened. But it's not common, it's not the norm. They would run away from us. But they are just very large in size, especially compared to the vervet monkeys. It's maybe a little bit difficult to see from here, but they are really large in size. We've got some of them just walking over this side. I can see 2 or 3 of them. It just shows you how long the grass is. And they also see in colour, which is quite remarkable. And it's an adaptation to allow them to see the fruit. Fruit is it makes up a large bulk of their diet. So they want to see the fruit that's ripe and delicious. And of course, due to their coloured bottoms, that scarlet colour that the female goes around her rump, as well as her anal genital swelling, yes, It's colour, it's visual, it's a visual cue. There would be absolutely no point in that happening for the female. And I'm not talking about the anogenital swelling. I'm talking about the skin that turns scarlet, the sexual skin. There would be no point in that change of colour, that wasted pigment, that wasted energy, if it was not received on the other end. So that factor alone tells you two things. One, they're highly visual, and two, they can see in colour. Otherwise, there would be no need for that bright red skin to happen when the female is receptive to mating. She's obviously not emailing. Why did I just say emailing? Sorry, baboons don't email. I don't know why I said that. She's advertising her estrus cycle to the males. Or maybe they do email. What do I know? It wouldn't surprise me in today's world to find a baboon at a computer. But in all seriousness, baboons are promiscuous. So there's a lot of mating. And apparently, the females can mate up to 100 times with various different males. Now, that's a lot. I'm not sure how much I can comment on that, but that is a lot of mating during one estrus cycle with different males. So very, very promiscuous. Maggie, I don't believe so. I really don't think so. I've never heard of that or witnessed that. Baboons hunting adult impala. I think they're far too big and fast. But I guess if a whole troop of baboon challenged one lone impala, or maybe even an impala lamb, I think they absolutely could, as a troop, kill an impala lamb. There's lots of stories. Last year there was two. There was one incident where a baboon took a leopard cub up a tree. And separately, on a different occasion, there was a similar story where a baboon took a lion cub up a tree. So I think an impala lamb, if it could get one, they could easily catch it. But it's not definitely something that they would eat or feast on. They go for much, much smaller organisms. So do I have no idea. I'm not sure how we would possibly know that. They're very mobile animals, so you can see they're moving quite fast. Simon's doing a great job, and there's lots of properties around here. I think that's the main factor with the northern sector of the Sabi Sands. Bufosuk, Torchwood, Juma, Simpambili, Arathusa, Hoffman's, Little Gowrie, Chitwa, did I say Torchwood? Torchwood. In Koro, right up to the Kruger boundary. So we have boundaries. Unfortunately, there's areas that we cannot traverse. But it doesn't work like that for the animals. They can move. So troops can come and troops can go. I really have no idea, but I really don't see that many baboons. We do see them around the dam cam area quite a lot, but really not as many as we see the monkeys, and that's probably because the monkeys live in our camp. We all love the monkeys very much. But I really have no idea how many troops, I'm afraid. That was interesting. Okay, we're going to bumble north into Bufosuk and hopefully find some lions for you, but Andrew is going to give you a very beautiful silent segment at a waterhole.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are live from and beyond Rengala, and we have started the afternoon off exploring some of the water holes and looking for some birds. And my name is Eric, and behind camera, as always, is BK. So, like I was saying, what we'd really like to do this afternoon, because it is so hot, is to see if we can see any of the special birds that I've been trying to find for the last couple of days before we start heading towards that nice big pride of lions a little bit later on, when it's cooler, and really hoping that we might get some action or some activity, whether it be from that lioness and her two cubs we saw on this morning's game drive, or perhaps even from the rest of the pride up and moving around eat. They were found this morning by the rangers showing them raw, so that would be a very special sight. And so that's why I think there's some huge potential for us to head on down in that direction later. But quite exciting news for Rengala is that there was a new migratory bird species that was seen literally this afternoon by Marna, who is one of is the southern carmine bee-eater. And it was seen not too far away from us. And so this is what it looks like. It is one of the most beautiful birds within southern Africa, in my opinion. And so we are going to try our best to see if we can spot it. Apparently it was flying overhead, so it might have continued flying on and further south. But I'd really like to see if we can maybe try and show you one of these southern carmines. It's literally arrived today for the first time this year, so potentially some exciting stuff for us. There we go. So onwards and upwards, I think we'll slowly make our way towards that. We're at maybe about 3 or 4 minutes drive from here. So, whilst we're driving, trying to get to the water, we'll send you across to Tswalu.
So, welcome back to Tswalu. I've just come to show you a nice little micro habitat. So what we've got here, still busy growing if you look relative to me, some camel thorns. This would have been an area where there would have just been a distribution of seed pods. Maybe once the giraffe or something had eaten that nice protein package and defecated here, dropped a lot of the seeds, the perfect conditions for that little camel thorn to germinate, and this is often what we have. So when we have small groups of camel thorns, they all probably germinated at the same time in the same season. And the camel thorn is an amazing tree. It can get, oh, here's some seed pods. There we go, Darby, small ones. But the camel thorn can have a taproot well over 60 meters. Remember, below us is mostly soil, so it'll try and get its roots right down to the water table and then establish itself from there. I don't know. I'm going to go round and see if I can see which birdie decided to be in here. So remember, whoever was watching with us this morning, we saw a scaly feathered finch on top of the bush, and this is what I would say has been busy here, bringing in little bits of grass to make, it's a very sort of messy grass nest, bundles it together, and then that'll be sort of a roosting spot for
Oh, sorry about that. Deirdre and Davy seem to have evaporated, but they will be back. We're actually just sitting here admiring this herd of kudu. There's lots of youngsters. It's a mixed herd. There's a male at the back, adult females, and then there's a really small youngster just in the middle there, Simon. In between the two that are facing us, there you go. Just on this side is a youngster. This one, Simon. Yeah, it's very small. I think this is the most relaxed kudu herd I've ever came across. They were actually sitting down when we first encountered them. And they've stood up since, but they're very relaxed. Hello, everyone. Have you seen any leopards? I think that's a no. They haven't seen any leopards. They can actually use the freeze tactic quite a lot when they think they've been spotted. So that's possibly what they're doing right now. If they didn't look like they were chewing chewing gum, my mother would shout at me if I was chewing chewing gum the way that they were chewing right now. But if they actually were not doing that, they almost look like statues. I was never allowed to chew chewing gum like that. And of course, it's not chewing chewing gum. She's chewing the cud. Jackson, I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that. Agitated. I would say that's quite a human term. It's quite a human perspective. I'm not entirely sure. Agitated. Oh, I'm not sure. I mean, are you referring to with our presence? If they were agitated with us, they would literally just walk away. If they were annoyed with the vehicle or they don't want to be around the vehicle or our presence, they would just leave the scene and walk off into the thicket. If they were agitated with the oxpeckers, I can see oxpeckers landing on some of them. It's not pleasant when a bird uses its claws to dig into your hair and jump on the free ride. It's also not pleasant when it pulls out the ticks. So if they get agitated with that, which you do see quite often, so maybe we can use that word, they just shake them off. They just move and shake and kick until the bird flies away. And if the oxpeckers are persistent, then they'll just keep shaking. So I'm not sure if that's what you mean, but I hope I answered your question. If they feel a threat is coming, if they feel threatened, they generally tend to either freeze, don't move a muscle, do not attract attention, especially if they're in the thicket, because they've already got quite disruptive markings. If you look at those lines going down the side of their body, it's already breaking up their body outline. So they can sort of rely on that form of camouflage. And especially that chevron, that line across their face, if we can maybe zoom into one of the faces, that white chevron also helps break up the face a little bit. So they can freeze or they can flee and try to outrun the predators. But for the male kudus, that's very, very difficult. Because for the males, they've got really elongated, long, spirally horns. And they, of course, stand upright from the top of the head. So if you're about to run away from a predator through the dense, thick bush, you're going to be in trouble. And you can also get stuck. We've seen some kudus that have ended up in horrible situations because they've been running at speed and their horns have got stuck in the vegetation. So normally, the male will run with his neck outstretched and his head tilted up towards the sky, which must feel slightly awkward, especially when you're trying to navigate through the thicket. But at least your horns are flat against your back and you're not going to get stuck. So it's not easy. They're also known to do quite an interesting technique when they're fleeing predators by lifting their tails up. They make their tails quite erect, put them upright, and you see that white underside? We're getting a perfect view on this youngster here. They actually reveal that white underside. And it's a follow me sign, as many other species has, for the youngsters to follow. But it also acts as sort of what we would call out here flash coloration. So the predator sees it, it draws their attention, and it focuses on the white tail only. White and black are very good shades of colours that predators can focus on. Focus on the white tail, and then it pursues the animal. Now, once the kudu feels like it's safe, or it's in an area where it's maybe blending into the backtown, it drops the tail, and the predator completely loses the animal because it was only focusing on that white beacon. And once that white beacon's gone, it can no longer see the kudu, especially if they're behind a bush and they've got those disruptive markings. And predators actually struggle to relocate them. So they've got really interesting tactics when a predator comes. Freeze or flee. They've got to make that choice depending on the predator. Lorna, I think probably the best way to answer your question, rather than me rambling on, is to show you an image. I think a visual image is a lot easier for you to see. So, I've got my Game Ranger book open here. Now Simon will take a look at this image, this one here. This is a female, no horns, and you can see they have got stripes going down their body. They've also got a little rump here that's very, very obvious. That sticks out. They've got the line, the chevron in between their eyes. Humongous ears, the kudu, and they are very, very large. The fully grown females are very large. Now I'm going to turn the page, Simon. There we go. And I think this is possibly the best one we're going to find of a female Inyala. So they're very, very similar when you look at them. And they also exhibit disruptive markings. There's far more lines on a female Inyala. You see that? It looks more like a barcode than on a kudu. Slight difference in coloration. They're a lot more fawnier. But I do wonder if that maybe differs from area to area, and they're not as big. They don't have the hump on the back, see the absence of the hump, and they've got quite a rounded body. When you see them, it's quite round, and yes, they're not as big. So they are very, very similar, but once you see them once or twice, it's quite easy for you to tell them apart. I think the images make it a little bit easier to see that than my descriptions. But the males are, of course, completely different. There's no way that you could confuse a male Inyala with a male kudu. Kudu are actually said to be the loudest vocalizations of all antelope, believe it or not. They will also bark, I think you can call it a bark, a really deep alarm call. Ruff, ruff. And is said to be the loudest of all the antelopes. A lot louder than an Impala snort. Now we're back to sitting down now. We're nice and relaxed. You see the young boy in the background there? How do I know he's young? Well, these horns are very short. He's not a fully grown bull. So he'll very much be hanging around with the female herd. And I always talk about senses. And just looking at that close-up Simon was just giving you of that female, immediately just look at the size of her ears. They are completely out of proportion. They're huge. They can swivel independently. And just like wild dogs almost, they're like really large satellite dishes. They can channel in the sound so accurately. They can also pinpoint the exact direction that sound is coming from. And that's, of course, their key. They don't need hearing to find food. They've got their food. Look at them chewing away quite happily. They use that hearing to escape predators. That's their main sort of primary sense. They've got good eyesight, really keen sense of smell, but just look at those ears. They're more than likely going to hear the predator approaching or hear danger before they see it. This one's got an oxpecker on its leg now. It was on its tummy. If you go down a little, there you go. So they don't always shrug the oxpeckers off. And sometimes you see oxpeckers pecking away at the most sensitive of regions. Okay. Okay, we're going to continue our bumble, but it seems like Andrew's been very lucky and he's going to give you a silent segment with some elephants at the waterhole.
So no luck yet with that carmine bee-eater that we set our sights on. We've just basically driven around in the kind of the direction that Marina saw that bird flying over. So she saw it flying in a southerly direction in that way. And along this road, we've got a long line of power lines that these carmine bee-eaters will often sit and rest up on. So we haven't seen anything yet, so I suspect that it just continued on flying. And so we might just carry on with the rest of our drive and slowly start making our way into the direction of where those lions were left this morning. There's actually just up ahead, there's a small little pan system. It's an old quarry actually, that's got lots of water in from the rains. So we'll quickly see if there's anything that might be there to drink. Maybe a couple of smaller birds that are around. It's just over here. It's an old quarry that I thought had water in, but there's just one or two very small puddles, so I don't think too much would be going on around here. So one thing that I've noticed with this season, and I think it's a combination of those nice early rains and beautiful hot weather, is the grass on Rengala is probably the longest throughout the reserve that I've seen it, especially at this time of year. And looking down the road, those little white fluffs of grass is a specific type of grass called Natal redtop, or Melanus repens is the scientific name. Let me show you quickly. So these little things are called the inflorescence, which are basically the seeds. So that's what it looks like when it's old. So it turns white, but this one here is just starting to grow, and it's got that beautiful, beautiful reddy pink color to it, like that. And a lot of the time you'll see this specific grass in what we call disturbed areas. So it will often be along the side of the road or a side of a big game trail, maybe even along the banks of the river. So it's not the most nutritious, but it is, especially when it's this beautiful pink color. It really is a pretty grass to see. Okay, so one last time, another waterhole that we're going to be checking. I had a question from Pile, what is my favorite? And then I didn't hear the last bit. So Jared, if you wouldn't mind repeating.
What's your favorite bird?
My favorite bird, thank you, BK. My favorite bird has to be an African scops owl. It is one of the smallest. There's a slender mongoose. It's just crossed the road. We can see if we can see it again. So Pile, favorite bird definitely is the African scops owl. Can you see it? There's a slender mongoose somewhere in here. You might just be able to see its tail. Yeah, there we go. There's literally just the end of its tail. Good spotting. Didn't realize that they climb trees so well. Pile, I think one of the reasons why African scops owl is my favorite bird is because of the call. It's got one of the best calls in Africa, and you hear it at nighttime in the bush, and it just brings back really good childhood memories of us camping in the bush, going up into Zimbabwe and other areas throughout southern Africa. It's such a tricky bird to find because they are just so camouflaged. But up at Safari Lodge, we're lucky enough to have a resident scops owl that literally flies around our room. I'll show you. Yeah. There we go. So it's almost the same size as the barred and the pearl-spotted owls that are quite common within the bush, and we see them on a regular basis. But this guy over here up at the top, the African scops owl here, is super tricky, and just look at how camouflage its patterning is. And so what it will do is just sit right at the junction of a horizontal branch and the main stem, usually, especially during the daytime, and it just doesn't move, and it looks exactly like the bark, especially with its eyes closed. So this little guy here is by far my favorite bird. The plan of looking for birds around these small little water holes doesn't seem to be working too much today. And it might just be that they, like a lot of the mammals, are just feeling a bit too hot, and so they are less active now. And as it starts cooling down, hey, there's even a tortoise. At least we're seeing other things. Can you see it there, BK? And that over there is a leopard tortoise.
It just pretended to be dead. Oh, that was amazing. I can't. How do I? It's like that is hands down the coolest.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, my name is Taylor McCurdy and I'm coming to you from Eco Training here on Pridelands. My most favorite animal in Africa has to be the elephant that's behind me, and this is Kumo, you'll meet him. But elephants just in general, they're really sociable, they're always doing something, and I love to see the interactions between the members of the herd.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Wild Earth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special Wild Earth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Rengala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Rengala treehouse. Become a Wild Earth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes.
Terms and conditions apply.
Our yellow-billed hornbill is very proud of his meal. So proud that he's showing it off. We see that, well done. Jolly good. I don't quite know what it is. It's clearly an insect. I can see the antenna. I can see wings, elongated back legs. I'm not sure if it's a grasshopper of some sort. It's very difficult to tell. Nice work, Simon. Isn't this beautiful? I think it's dead by now. I think you... Oh! I see you're gone. He's there. Why he's not eating it, I have no idea. Of course, the force from that huge beak, that big banana beak, would have killed this insect a long time ago. Oh, now he's shy. He knows that we're live now. So he's pretending to be shy. Now, if you think of all the organisms out here that feed on insects, summer is just such a blessing to them all. That's where they really, really thrive, and that's why you will find a lot of birds breeding in this season. It's not really just a temperature, it's not really just a rain, it's everything, and it's the plethora of insect delights that one can feed on. I think we've lost them, though. Let us bumble. We're heading to the hippo carcass. or what is left of the carcass. I'm not entirely sure I'm ready for this myself, but I believe there's lots of vultures around. There's hyenas, hopefully. So I think we're going to head there. So I'm not entirely sure I'm ready for this myself, but I believe there's lots of it we're going to investigate. So I think we're going to and see what is there. I'm not sure if the lions are still around. We're going to test. We're going to position our vehicle very carefully. We're going to test the wind direction. Oh, yes, it's not a nice carcass, but all in all, the hippo did appear to die of natural causes, possibly with a battle with another male, and it provided a substantial amount of food for dark mane and the sub-adult talamati. The rest of the pride are on Bovelstoke as well. They are near Hartlepool, so we'll try and catch up with the talamati pride as well, since I tried yesterday, but no such luck. Hello, Mr. Impala. Are you just blocking the road to get yourself some shade? We have a lone ram here. Seeking shade right in the middle of the road. Will you allow us to get past, mister? That is a defiant no. I think it's safe to say all the lambs have been dropped now, and as I bumble around, it's unbelievable, the growth rate of the little Impala lambs. They're still small, of course, but they're growing remarkably fast. There's absolutely no time wasted in being young and weak if you're an Impala. You've got to get big and get strong straight away. Hello, handsome. Now, we spoke about camouflage earlier and the different forms of camouflage that you can get. We think of camouflage as that sort of military camo pattern. But in the animal kingdom, there's so many different types of camouflage. And the Impala actually have their own. Now, if you look closely at him, if we zoom in a little bit, you'll see his coloration is almost like it's in 3 different blocks. It's like someone's painted him in 3 different colours. At the top, he's quite a dark fawny colour. In the middle, at his rib cage, he's quite light, he's quite pale. And then underside his tummy, he's very, very white. Now, this is intentional. It's a form of camouflage called counter shading. And it means that one blends into their background, and it's prevalent throughout the entire animal kingdom, including the oceans. And it naturally goes from dark to light. We're talking about you, yes. Yes, we are. And it's, again, to fool the predators, to blend into your background. You're not one block colour. Your body outline's broken up a little bit, and it's very important in fish. It's really prevalent in fish to have counter shade, and when you look closely, they'll be darker on the top and lighter underneath, but it's slightly different for oceanic animals. Now, if you take the Manta Ray as the perfect example, my favourite oceanic animal in the world, they're very dark on top, almost black, but they're bright white underneath, so it's a stark contrast, black versus white. And this is because if they have any aerial threats, actually in the air, or any predators above them in the water, as the predator's looking down, the dark colour is going to blend in with the deep dark depth of the ocean. The darker the better. Light only penetrates in the ocean sunlight for about 50 metres, and that depends on the sort of visibility and how turbulent the water is. But generally speaking, in tropical reef ecosystems, sunlight will penetrate down to about 50 metres, and after that you're struggling. And if there's a predator looking up, so say you're a shark, a tiger shark, and you're fancying a bit of manta ray, and you look up, there's a manta ray above you, it's pure white, and that's going to blend in with the surface of the ocean. If you've ever been underwater and you look up, it's very bright, because you get all the ambient light from the surface in the sky. So that counter shading is crucial to a manta ray survival. Whereas it's slightly different for the impala and terrestrial animals, but it's the same effect. The counter shading is allowing the animal to blend into their background. So we're going to have to squeeze past this impala since he's been very stubborn, but we're going to send you back to Andrew and his elephants.
This will be live.
No, I don't think so.
Well, if we are, welcome to Swahili. I'm just going to head up to the sociable weaver's nest because we may lose signal going over the dune, but I'm not sure. I don't know if you've been this way out before. Look at the beautiful social weaver's nest, everybody. Welcome back to Swahili. We're going to head up there and see, maybe we're fortunate that there's a Cape Cobra in the nest like we had the other day. There is certainly quite a lot of activity there. So this is like a hive of activity. I think this is sort of the New York of sociable weaver nests because there's all the different burrows or little nest systems. And they are loving this silver cluster leaf. I don't know what's better, Darby, if I park you. I don't want to park you right underneath just in case the birds decide to go to the toilet. Sorry, that was me on the handbrake there. Just have a look and see. So the other day we saw that sort of Cape Cobra's tail sticking out from underneath one of the holes. This will be multiple different colonies, so each sort of tree will have its own colony of birds, and there'll be a couple of hundred birds in each one of those. I can even see how the tree is shaking with the weight. Viola's asking how old are these nests. So Viola, they are very old. Once they start them, you can actually see the start of a nest, maybe in that fork at the top there, Darby, on the left-hand side of the main nest, and that's how they start. They sort of just put a couple of sticks down across the bar, and they just keep bringing more and more and more sticks, and that's how the nest grows. But they could be, well, some of them even 10, 20, 30 years old, depending on how long they've been building, but these ones have been around for a long time. You can even see that this tree is starting to strain a little bit under the weight of this big one. Look, oh, there's a Pygmy Falcon there, bottom left. So Pygmy Falcons are normally down in the nest on that round one, on the base. So the one on the bottom left, there, it's hanging, there it is, there it goes, sitting on the, it's just landed on the tree there, Darby. You got him there, that's the weaver, come down. There you are, there he is, yeah. There, you got him, he's there. So that's a little, where's he? Are you on the right? Go up, yeah, there he is, got him, thanks. Well done, Darby, little Pygmy Falcon. Look at that beautiful little red around the beak there. So it's just landed on the base of the nest. So it's natural to have a pair of Pygmy Falcons sometimes taken over one of the nest chambers in the sociable weaver's nest. And it's kind of like a quid pro quo. The Pygmy Falcon is a bit like a bodyguard for all the sociable weavers in that they'll chase away predators, snakes like that Cape Cobra. They'd be a little bit more aggressive and maybe chase them away, but the fact that they nest there also sometimes means that every now and again, and we won't say it too loudly, but the sociable weavers lose a couple of chicks to them anyway. The Pygmy Falcons feeding, mostly bringing lizards and geckos to the nest. You can just see it hanging out. I just see the tail sticking out the entrance. So it's hanging upside down, holding on to the branches. That looks pretty awesome. But let's just, there's something interesting going on here. The sociable weavers were reacting more like it was behaving like a predator as opposed to, just the local, regular Pygmy Falcon. That's amazing. I'm so glad we got to see one. That's just a very interesting mutualistic relationship. So that's the smallest of the falcon species, the Pygmy Falcon. What would you say, about 10 centimeters? Very, very pretty. It keeps going to the same place, so I don't know if it's trying to establish a new nest there. Normally, if you're looking from underneath and you look up to the nest, you generally find a... So Marcus is saying those nests must be very, very heavy. They are. I can see that this particular tree is taking strain. But what I was saying about the Pygmy Falcon is you can actually see which nest chamber it's got because it defecates just at the entrance. So you get this almost like a waterfall of white droppings coming out the entrance, and you'll know that will have a resident Pygmy Falcon in it. As we go under, we might be able to see a pair of Pygmy Falcons, but you typically have only one pair per sociable weaver's nest. But that was a nice surprise. Davio ready to brave it. We're going to go underneath it. Hopefully none of them decide to poop. And we'll see what's on the other side of the dune. So Sinak is asking if any other birds would live with these weavers. So no, only the Pygmy Falcon that I know of, but we were talking a little bit earlier this morning that sometimes, not necessarily in the hole, but on top of the nest, you will have owls or eagles that may nest on the top. We've even actually had one that had an African wildcat that had a nice little hole in one of them that he spent winter in there, so it was a quite nice and warm place. But the Pygmy Falcon seems to be one of the only ones that sort of borrows a chamber for themselves. If the nests have been abandoned, then sometimes you will get little waxbills or other birds that might overnight or nest in the warmth of the nest. But when the sociable weavers are in residence, then typically no other birds live there. Just listen. We're gonna be quiet for a minute. Well, I'll try a minute and just listen to the chittering sounds. Isn't that just amazing? They're constantly talking, so they're keeping each other in tune. So everybody knows what everybody else is doing, but they're doing lots of nest repair at the moment. There's quite a lot of birds that have come in with little grass stalks just to make the colony expand. They'll have sort of 2 to 3 chicks at a time in a nest, and then those parents will then bring them food. So they're typically seed eaters, but they'll actually bring chicks, things like insects as well, in the very beginning. Some of these nests can weigh over a ton, 1,000 kilograms worth of grass. In some of these nests. I mean, I can definitely assume that this tree that's got sort of 5, 6 different nests in it is got at least a ton carrying off its branches. The viewers are saying it sounds like wild dogs. Okay, well, I can get that, They're just very, very little busy birds. We actually have our airstrip. There's a building that's an open building, but it's a thatch roof. And the weavers have taken over the thatch roof. So they thought, well, this is great. We've already got a pre-existing structure. We're just going to add to it. So they have literally built half the roof on the inside from the underneath, closed. And that's the welcoming arrival for any guests is literally to arrive at the nest, because the weavers have taken over the airport building. And we just let them be. And it's actually quite amazing to see that we can coexist in and out, and the weavers just carry on with their day, because they chose to be where the people are, and they're perfectly fine with that. If I look on the northern horizon there, I've got good news and bad news for you, Darby. The good news is that the Kalahari is going to get rain, but the bad news is that it's going to rain. Chris is saying hopefully the tree won't collapse. So yeah, we also hope that the tree won't collapse. So if the tree does collapse, they don't really do anything with the nest. If there are any chicks or anything in that nest, they will abandon them and start building the new extension somewhere else. But yeah, they sometimes will take the nesting material and sort of recycle it, but sometimes not. There's one industrious one that keeps coming, and he keeps stuffing more and more in on the top there. He just brings these little, and these little birds, they only weigh a couple of grams each, and they're carrying little grass, probably about 10, maybe 15 centimeters in length. They're carrying that in their beak all the way from where they found it to the nest, and then they weave it in. It looks more like shoving it in, and then go off and find another one. The Kalahari is limited for very, very large trees, so they only really here have 2 choices. They're either going to put it in a camel thorn, or they're going to put it on top of a dune in a silver cluster leaf. There's the odd one in the boskia every now and again if it's a very, very big boskia, but that also could contribute to one of the reasons why they live as a colony. It makes sense. You want to be so populous in number and have large numbers. You roost and nest colonially, and you can make use of the food sources and the habitat, but it also means that there's not so much competition for nest sites. Can you imagine if each one of those birds in that nest was a monogamous bird that had to build even a smallish nest? There wouldn't actually be enough space for them to find enough trees in the Kalahari. But it also is got to do with temperature. So whether it's winter or summer, they can sit nice and warm and cuddly in the winter, and in the summer they can spread out. We're going to send you across to Andrew, who will have a nice sound bite for you.
2 seconds. Bear with me. I think I found them. I can't believe it. I think I found what I'm looking for. Hold on. This is very exciting. Let me get into a better position. I think it's them. I have never seen this species on Juma or anywhere on live drives. Okay, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's them. Simon, straight ahead at the water's edge. I'm going to get my binos out. Let us see. I'm at Kayamanzi Dam. And I think we have 2 flamingos. Yo, I think we have here 2 greater flamingos. Can you believe it? It's pretty. Oh, I think it is. It is. Oh, that's another species added to my ever-growing bird list. How exciting. Wow. Just chilling on one leg. I mean, why not? If you can, you should. Can't imagine that's comfortable, but we all know that's exactly what flamingos do. And I have never, ever seen them on a live drive before. You, as viewers, possibly have seen them with all the different locations, but this is very exciting. They're monogamous. Once again, they say they're monogamous, but are they? And normally the males are larger than the females. So I would imagine here we have a male and female. If, Simon, you could just zoom out a little bit. Oh, it's very difficult to tell from here which one's larger. I think the one on the right looks smaller, but it could be an optical illusion because it's slightly down slope. Now, they don't look very pink, but they are. They're pinkish. The legs are pink. And with the greater flamingo, they're actually larger, believe it or not, and whiter than the lesser flamingo. Lesser flamingos are more pink in colour. And it's not that they're rare or endangered. I've just never ever seen them on any of my drives around Juma. This is exactly why I came to this dam. I had it in mind. I'm going to come to Kayamanzi and look for flamingos. Relax and M, you're saying they are practicing social distance. What a very current and apt joke. Yes, they are. Either that or they're having a domestic. One or the other. You win joke of the day. They are at a good 2 meters apart there. Well done, flamingos. You're better than some humans. Now, their distribution is pretty much all over South Africa, except the sort of belt in the middle, which is exactly where Swallow is, where Deirdre and Davy are right now in the Kalahari. You won't really find flamingos there. And there's a sort of gap in the southeast where you don't tend to find them, but other than that, you really do find flamingos all across South Africa. This is so magical. But they are listed as near threatened. So when I said they're not endangered, that was actually incorrect. IUCN has a scale. If you go to the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, it's a red list, and it lists all the species in the world through every single group: birds, fish, mollusks, crustaceans. And they say that more than 35,000, I think it's around 500 species are actually threatened with extinction. That's an extremely high number. And they even look at coral. There's sort of no living organism that they miss out. And the data's maybe not always up to date, but it goes from it's extinct, it's no longer present on planet Earth, to extinct in the wild, which of course means there's populations somewhere in captivity, to critically endangered, where they're on the brink. They're on the brink of being lost forever. Then endangered, then vulnerable, then near threatened. At the very bottom is least concern, and greater flamingos are actually near threatened, so they're one above least concern. And I know I mention this a lot, but it's a really fantastic website if you want to check it out, iucnredlist.org. You can type in any single species on this planet, not on other planets, and it'll give you the information. And it's constantly updating as well. And it's also a little bit inaccurate for some species like giraffes, but they're getting there. They're working on it. They're constantly collecting information. Now, Shaw, you're asking why do flamingos stand on one leg? It really doesn't look that comfortable. And of course, they can stand on two legs, but I think it's to do with thermoregulation. So birds can lose a lot of heat through their legs. It's obviously not insulated like their bodies. It's not covered in feathers. It's very thin and very scaly, so they can actually lose a lot of heat. And normally when they sort of raise a leg up like that, they're just trying to thermoregulate. By raising a leg up, you can keep that leg closer to the body and stop losing so much heat. Now, it is warm today, but it's not the sort of piping hot summer's day that we've had, and it's been cold previously. So they stand on one leg to, well, regulate their temperature. But it has puzzled researchers for a long time why on earth they do this. Another theory suggests that it reduces muscle fatigue. So they've got very thin, oh, hello, Egyptian goose. Oh, have you got little goslings with you? You're not alone. How sweet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, just bombing the shot. But yes, another theory suggests that it's to do with muscle fatigue. So with a heavy body like that, in comparison to the actual structure of the leg, they're water birds after all, it allows them to sort of reduce getting tired on their legs and thus flee predators more quickly. So that's the two theories. I believe the thermoregulation one sort of won in terms of when they tested both the theories. Joy, you're asking what do they eat? Well, yes, they do eat insects, and it's normally their sort of bulk of their diet is aquatic invertebrates. And that's why they stand around water edges and they stand in the water paddling. But they will also eat sort of any insects that land on the water, that are around the water's edges. And they are known to also eat algae. So they supplement their diet with a good dose of algae. Algae is actually highly nutritious for humans as well, kelp and algae. There's lots of companies now making it for human consumption. I find it delicious, but I'm not sure everyone would. I don't want to leave. Can we stay here for the rest of the drive? This is just so magnificent. I just want to savor this moment. I'm so glad I got to show you all that. I'm going to spend a few more minutes admiring the pink birds before I go to the Talamatis, but we're going to send you guys to some swimming elephants with Mike.
So that's really awesome that Lauren's seen flamingos at Djuma. That's really great. We're seeing something, however, that's a much more common sight. Here at Leopard Dam, the elephants are once again having a swim. This morning we spent the whole day at Ndlovu Dam. This afternoon I think this is where we're going to set up camp. Hi everyone, I'm Mike Anderson. Behind the camera is Seb, and you're joining us at Eco Training's Pride Lands Conservancy, where on this very hot afternoon many animals are coming down to the waterhole. And we've in fact passed a herd of buffalo earlier, who also seem to be coming in this direction. So I think we're just going to camp here the whole afternoon and see what they get up to. These elephants have been chasing the geese recently. The geese have seemed to have gone to the other side of the waterhole now, avoiding the attentions of these much larger animals. And these three bulls just happy to play fun and games. Not eating algae like the flamingo though. The flamingos, I've actually never seen flamingos here. They generally need shallower water, which we don't have in this waterhole. It gets deep fairly quickly, as you can see. The elephant's standing there knee deep. If you can hear voices, that is another game viewer that is in the sighting now. I think they're very excited about the elephants, which is always good. Elephants are very exciting. There's not a lot of wading birds that come to this waterhole because of the fact that it has steep sides and it gets quite deep quite quickly. And the elephants, one of them is basically upside down. That's an interesting position that it's found itself in. And what are you going to do, elephant, with the other one standing right above you? So I really wonder how they don't get hurt. But it's actually lucky. It can still breathe even underwater. We had a question this morning about if elephants can breathe through their trunk. And they certainly can. As you can see, that one there is completely submerged now for a couple of minutes. It's still able to get its trunk up above the level of the water to have a breath. That's right, now pushing back. The bottom of the waterhole must be so soft. We always see the elephants dunking their heads right under the water. And I think what they're doing, and I would discuss this with another guide recently, the bottom of the waterhole is quite muddy but also quite sandy, and so they can really shove their tusks into the sand at the bottom of the waterhole, and it acts as like a toothbrush, and they can keep their tusks nice and clean. So that's why I think we often see elephants dunking their whole head under the water and just their bum bobbing to the surface as they gouge with their tusks. It's very important, dental hygiene for an elephant especially, because they only grow one set of tusks. If the tusks start to rot, it's game over. They won't have more of them. They'll break off, just like that one you see there's a broken tusk. Probably broke because of using it and it snapped. If it doesn't keep it clean now, it can get a bit of plaque in there and maybe even attack the nerve in the middle. But there's 6 sets of teeth that they grow throughout their life, 6 sets of molars. And if those teeth get damaged or they will get used up, then they can't digest anymore and they will die. So it's very important that they eat the softest material that they can to keep their teeth healthy. That elephant there's got a short trunk. I think we've seen this elephant many times before. Hasn't got a name, but let's call him Stumpy. What do you think? Is that a good name for an elephant? Stumpy? Trunky? Stumpy Trunky? See that one there showing off? He's like, look at my trunk. It's got the little pinchy bits on the end. It could have happened in many ways. We actually had a question this morning as well about a crocodile. Whether a crocodile could attack an elephant, and that might even have been caused by a crocodile. They have the strongest bite force of any of the African animals. I actually think an elephant's bite force must be massive as well. Such a huge creature. Must be able to really chomp away. No crocodile's, of course, going to be bothering these elephants, not when they're playing like this especially. They might get stepped on. Eye of the tiger, that's a great question. I am going to estimate these elephants to probably be around about 4 tons. Maybe that's a bit big. Yeah, let's call it 4 tons. That's 4,000 kilograms. So I think these elephants can probably drink around about 200 liters of water in a day if they are very thirsty, which today's been a hot day. As you can see, there's a lot of grumbling going on. Wow, that's an amazing sound. Someone's grumpy. Not really sure what's happening and why there was such an incredible noise coming out of that elephant now. Doesn't sound like a happy noise. It sounded more like an angry noise. Now, if you look, the 2 elephants on the left are looking...
Which one's making the noise?
It was one of those 2, yeah. One of those 2 definitely. Seb was just asking which one was making the noise. I think it might be this one that we're looking at right now. But it seemed to have made a noise when the other elephant approached it. I'm not sure what kind of argument was going on over there. And there's a lot of... There's waves in the water now after all that. It looks like they're going to leave now, the water. They're making their way up. I thought I heard other elephants calling from the distance. That's super strange. They looked so calm and friendly with each other, if a little playful, but then all of a sudden there was this really loud screeching, and now they're all leaving. Not interested at all in sticking around. This one here is listening in the distance. I think I can hear the distant rumblings of a train. I wonder if to the elephant it sounds like something else. That was an incredible sound. I actually wonder if they'll do it again. So loud. We often get students in the camp, and when we hear that sound at night, it's so eerie, that cold nighttime air, how the sound travels. That was incredible. Now this one taking a moment to throw a bit of dirt on its back. Maybe that's like a calming thing. Interesting. Wilson's stepbrother, I think they make it with a combination of the 2. Now, the sound probably comes from some vocal cords somewhere inside the throat, and maybe even up through the chest, reverberating through and then into the trunk. And the trunk then amplifies the sound and directs it. That's my theory, although I've never looked at the anatomy of an elephant in terms of how it makes sound. Now, certainly we know that elephants that have short trunks, or smaller elephants, or elephants that have blocked noses, sound very different. So the nose, the trunk, is definitely involved in the sound making process. But I think it's more of just a way to reverberate the sound or amplify it in some way. The sound itself comes from deep inside the elephant. Short trunk there is really going for it. Well, they're going to move behind some bushes now. We're not going to be able to see them anymore unless we reposition, which I don't want to do just yet, because last time we moved we had a bit of a signal drop and I don't want to lose this. So I'll just hope that they come back around towards us. But yeah, that was amazing. Such a cool thing to see, that loud sound and hear that noise. And for you guys at home, it must have been incredible. But even here, wow. Almost wanted to cover my ears, it was so loud. I think there's a buffalo herd that's going to come down soon. I was hearing noises and we saw them earlier. I suspect they're going to come down. I don't know how soon. Do you think we should risk it? Drive forward? I'm going to risk it, guys. I'm going to risk it. Fingers crossed. Denzo, a big male elephant would only chase a young elephant, I think. We don't have the weird video thing. They only chase elephants when they're trying to get to the females, and the young males might be in the way. the threat. There they are. But of course, a small elephant.
Oh, sorry about that. Don't know what happened to Pridelands. You've actually caught me with my map out. I'm about 80% there with, let me just double check everyone. I'm about 80% there with Buffelshoek, but there's still some areas I'm a little bit unsure about. So you caught me looking at my map. We are on our way to see the Talamasis. They're flat, but we're going to check in on them and say hello. And I am still just moving with go. This morning. Especially in summer, you just go through.
I heard lost feed, but I'm not sure. What? We're either the last feed or he's lost feed. So I didn't hear that. Maybe we must get some more comms. Okay. So welcome back to Tswalu. We're in one of our very, very large open clearings. We've got 4 Springbok there. I'm going to try and have a look at if we can see if any of them. Oh yes, the male is on the far left of the screen, and the rest are females. You can see slightly thicker horns at the base, and then sort of more curving around towards each other, and then the female that's in the front of the screen on the right hand side, much thinner horns. So we do know that quite a lot of the female Springbok are pregnant at the moment, due any day now. They'll be hiding their lambs in the thickets, and their lamb is just sort of like it's almost sort of like a lighter brown version of the stripe that they have on the side, and they'll hide that baby. The baby will just lie down, and then only when the mother calls it or comes towards it to suckle it will it emerge, and then only when they're a couple of weeks old and they're strong enough will they stick with the rest of the group. There's quite a lot of wattled starling nests here. We were talking about the little wattled starlings that were sort of washing and splashing and bathing in the water yesterday or the day before, and just to show you there's the wattled starling. That's the male. We just got to hope that the wind moves the branch enough to actually see his face. So that wattle on the side of the face, sort of yellow wattle, and then that wattle hanging down from the throat. That is a male wattled starling, and they're monogamous in pairs, so breed in pairs but live in colonies. And then when Davy does zoom out, you can actually see very sort of messy stick nests that they make in the trees. So it's just like just a jumble of sticks. I don't even know where the hole is there for the female to go in and lay eggs, but just messy. There's another one there. So another male by the looks of it. We're quite close to another large colony because I can hear them. They're probably coming in for roosting for the evening. I can hear a big group just further to our south. So I hope all our viewers are keeping a bird list as we go. We've got some really unique ones here in the Kalahari. But remember that if you want to ask us questions, you just hashtag Wild Earth and put at FC, and then we can engage with you on a live basis. So just look at our nice open area. We're just going to carry on going slowly. We have seen tracks of those male cheetah in the area. We've left the area of the female cheetah with the cubs because we weren't able to. She moved them multiple times and we weren't able to track all the way to find her. So we're just going to move on through the open clearing and see what else is around. You find animals animals like Gemsbok, wildebeest, they'll be here under the trees. We're looking for ground squirrels, maybe meerkats. LP's asking the question, how do you tell the difference between an impala and a springbok? So firstly, the springbok, the male and the female have the horns, and then they've got that sort of what's it called, a light brown on the top with dark stripe that we on the side, and the impalas, they sort of just more brown, and then they have a white underside, and the males of the impalas are the only ones with horns, like a lyre-shaped horns, and the females without. We've got some Cape ground squirrels here in the open clearing. They're just sort of popping up from all different holes, but beautiful there. So we have been seeing some young squirrels come out. The females, quite interestingly, we know that the females all live together. Oh, that's a nice way of cooling down. Just sort of dig the sand and lie flat with your belly and hope that the cooler sand sort of cools them down a little bit. So just they're all on alert. I don't know if they've seen something in the distance that we don't know about. But there is one looking in the completely opposite direction, so we just don't know. Oh. I can't see anything. Oh, there's a tortoise. They're looking at the tortoise. So there's a leopard tortoise just sneaking out. There he is. So the open plains are just alive. He's wading on through the grass. Man on a mission. So you're actually seeing quite nicely, you can see the sort of the like bony plates on the front of the legs, and tortoises actually have a beak. It sounds quite funny, but it's described as a beak for the way that they chop off. They don't have teeth, so the way that they would chop off the grass or whatever they're eating is by closing their mouth, almost like a bird, and having a beak. And then you just see that nice sort of yellow and black camouflage pattern. So a leopard tortoise. And if he turns away from us, let's see if we can see if it's a male. I think that's a female. You normally look at the last sort of scoot on the tail, and if it sort of goes downwards, almost touching the ground, then it's a male. But if it's got a little bit of a curve, like a hollow, then it's a female. And that's, we wouldn't want to tip the tortoise upside down, but you can sex a tortoise by looking at the underside of the shell, the carapace. Playing hide and go seek now. So let me go forward and then we can, oh, he's coming out. So if you had a look at the underside of the tortoise, you would look at the belly. If the belly is relatively flat, then it's a female. And if it's got sort of a concave curve in it, then it's a male. And that's to help them with mating when the male mounts the female. If he's got that slight curve, it kind of matches her shell. Otherwise, he'd fall off. So what would you say? 10 meters in half a minute? It's not too bad. Speedy. Let's. I'm going to catch up with him. Left us. They've gone to Rengala, I think.
And we've come to the spot where these lions were this morning, and the only thing they've done is moved with the shade. And so they are completely resting and relaxing in the heat of the day. The exciting thing, though, is when they were left this morning, it was literally just the cubs with the one male lion who is in frame at the moment. But if we go 2 lions behind him, BK, so that one there with the arm across or its paw across the other one, and that's one of the females, and she and another female have returned to the pride. So I suspect that they left the cubs with the male in the spot, went off to go and hunt, and by the looks of things, looking at their bellies, and I mean, they're still here resting, they were unsuccessful. And so I think it's well worth us sticking around, waiting for the moment that these two decide to get up and move again. And this area is really, really good for wildebeest. We're right next to a little pan system. There's big open clearings. And so there's a good chance that as it starts to get a bit darker and cooler, these two lionesses might peel off from the pride and see if they might be able to catch their youngsters a meal. I mean, there's a bit of restlessness going on. So that one that's just turned around is another one of the adults. So, Priscilla, for the most part, we tend to have one pride, which is the one that we're looking at on Rengala. And they just are such a big pride. Their territory pretty much expands throughout the whole of Rengala. They do occasionally move off into the east and go into the Kruger National Park, but they tend to come back within a few days. We do also sometimes see a breakaway pride of this pride. So they're related. The two oldest lionesses of this pride are related to their sisters of the two oldest lionesses of the other pride. And they are sometimes in the western part of our reserve. We don't see them nearly as often as these ones. It's quite a lot harder to look for animals in that part of the reserve just because there's really big blocks, and if animals go in there, they tend to stay within a block for a couple of days at a time. And then we sometimes get a pride that comes in from the south and the east, a pride called the Mberi pride. And they're also quite a large pride, but this is at the very, very, very edge of their territory or their home range. And so they might, especially in the wintertime, they might come to one of our water holes that we have right on our boundary to have something to drink, but then they'll cross back and head straight back away. So we tend to see 3 different prides of lions. Within the north of the reserve, so around our lodge, the Rengala Safari Lodge, and it's quite far away from the main section that we do a lot of our game drives in, and we'll occasionally see a pride that pops in every now and again. So between 3 to 5 different prides of lions, but usually it's just the one big pride of lions, this one here. And these lionesses are big and strong and healthy, and so they set down their territory, and there's not very many lionesses that can challenge them for it. So Joy, if you're asking about this white lion, you might be a new viewer, and it's a very rare condition that lions occasionally have. And we're lucky enough to have 2 white lions within this pride, but essentially it's a recessive gene that has been passed down from the big male and its mother. And so although neither the mother or the father are white, they're both in possession of the gene, and so they pass it on. And if a male and a female carry that white lion genetic, there's still only a 25% chance of it turning white, or it not turning white, of being born white. And so it's a very, very, very rare thing that we get to witness. Something that we almost just have to stop and appreciate, because we see them so regularly. We or at least I do, I tend to take it for granted, but there's people that have been coming to the bush for their whole entire lives and have never ever seen white lions. And we think this is where the genetic originates, or at least in this area. So there are 2 white lions in this pride, and then about 3 or 4, maybe not as much, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, there was an aerial survey that was done north and west of a camp in the Kruger National Park called Auckland Camp, which is right next to Rengala. And somewhere along one of the river systems there, that they spotted a very, very small white lion cub. I haven't heard any news from that cub, so we're not sure if it's survived or how it's doing. And then there's another big male, very, very far east, quite close to the border of Mozambique and Kruger National Park. So There are literally only 4 white lions that we know of in the whole entire wild. And of the 4, there are 2 within this pride. So we've got 50% of the world's white lion wild population. So that white lion that we're seeing is the smaller one of the 2. She is a female, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, her mother is the one that's resting her paw on one of the other sub-adults. And then I actually haven't seen the white male. His mother is one of the older cubs of that older female who gave birth to the white lion. So it almost skipped a generation, actually. It's actually very tough. I'm not going to make the call, but it could be. She is one of the older lionesses, and the 2 sisters look very similar. And you need to see them standing up, or at least I do, to be able to identify them. She is looking rather thin. So whilst we wait for our lions to get up and moving, Lauren, I think, has got some potential action on the cards.
An elephant just chased the Talamatis, or at least 3 of them. A very, very upset elephant who came to drink at Harticle Dam and chased off 3 of the Talamatis. The rest of them are on the dam wall, completely not bothered whatsoever by this giant's presence. You can just see those are the lions that were chased off, and they're watching him. I think he might chase them again, so we'll focus on these members of the pride rather than the other ones. He was not a happy chappy to arrive at the dam and find an entire pride of lions. Now, the Talamatis killed a young giraffe last night, and I believe when people went to sort of search this morning, not a single piece of the giraffe calf remained. So the entire pride demolished it. And they're all just sitting on the dam wall. It must be nice and cool. They're in the shade. And, well, water is right there. They just need a really, really large straw. And they don't even have to move. There's one actually drinking there, Simon. 10 o'clock in a little puddle. Okay, the elephant's getting mobile again. Let's just see if the elephant's going to be bothered by these lions. Fren, absolutely. They're nocturnal predators, primarily. I mean, you will. That doesn't mean they can't or they won't hunt during the day. I think the elephant's given up. I don't think he's entirely bothered anymore. But yes, primarily they're nocturnal for many reasons. Here in Africa in summer, even in winter, the heat is phenomenal. It gets so hot and so dry. And it can also be humid in times in the low veld. And it would take a lot of energy for the lions to hunt during the day in this extraordinary heat. And therefore, they're primarily nocturnal. They sleep all day, they save their energy, and they're ready to go at night when it's nice and cool. They also use the cover of darkness for their stealth attacks on prey. They can obviously see very, very well at nighttime. But you will find them hunting during the day. We've seen it many times. It's just primarily they're nocturnal species. And you see it a lot in the Masai Mara, where they hunt during the day. Prides will differ in different environments. It's the same species, but they'll have different behaviours, different adaptations to that environment. We also see lions, well, mostly the Nkuhumas, who used to spend all their time on Djuma. I don't quite know where they've gone. They're down south. You used to see them hunt a lot during the day in winter. And that's, of course, due to temperatures. It's a lot cooler in winter. I wouldn't want to run in this heat. I do run and I'm quarantined in this heat, but it's something I forced myself to do. And I enjoy exercising in the heat, but for animals that are covered in hair, it's exhausting. Hello, Talamatis. I tried very hard to find you guys yesterday. I don't see dark mane. And I actually forgot to update you all. I went to the hippo carcass and there is no hippo carcass. There's nothing. Not a single shred remains. No vultures, no hyenas, just a normal scene at a dam. Incredible. So Darkmane possibly could have reunited with his lady friends. Rachi, that's a bit of a myth. So even if the females do most of the hunting, they will try to eat first. They'll try. They're hungry. You can smell the blood in the air. It's just the male is a lot bigger than them and he can be very, very aggressive and he normally just shoves them off. I'll never forget the sighting we had with the Nkuhumas. I spent my entire Boxing Day, I think, or Christmas Eve, looking for the Nkuhumas with Steve, for you all. And we drove round and round and round and round, as we do. And of course, as soon as drive, indeed, they came onto quarantine at night time. So we went and got all the staff, and they took down an Impala ram right in front of us. And it was so aggressive. The male, it was either Darkmane or... No, it was either Blondie or Mohawk, sorry. And he was really aggressive towards the females. He hogged the carcass, dragged it away, and he was also extremely aggressive towards the cubs. They're a pride, they're a social cohesive unit, but when it comes to food, We actually watched one of the lionesses pick up 2 cubs, very small cubs, by the nape of their neck and helicopter swing them and throw them away. We actually have the video. It's quite horrifying. Young little cubs being thrown into the air and thrown away from the carcass. Lions can be really aggressive with one another. Yes, if the carcass is big enough, be it a giraffe or a wildebeest or a zebra, then there's enough for everyone to dig in. But it's a frenzy. Be it an impala, well, there's not enough meat to go around. There's such an aggressive scenario that we witnessed last year. So going back to your question, most likely the male will just come in and shove all the females off. He'll either hog the carcass or he'll take as much as he can. And if it's big enough, the females will just eat around him. And you're right, sometimes it's the females that have done all of the work. Males do hunt too. There's a sort of myth that they don't. They rely on the females. Yes, I do believe they rely on the females a lot. They're lazy. But they do hunt, and they can hunt, and they will hunt. You'll so be happy we're at Hartlepool. And I'm loving being able to show you all different areas. It's such a joy being able to traverse Buffelshoek these days. So we're going to sit here a little bit longer and enjoy our time with the Talamati Pride.
Wild Earth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special Wild Earth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Rengala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Rengala treehouse. Become a Wild Earth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes.
Terms and conditions apply.
We've seen these ellies really chase wild dogs before. Let's get into spot. There we go, here it comes. Look at that, isn't that amazing?
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Look at this tiny little cute thing. It's a whole herd of elephants that have arrived now with a lot of young ones as well. And they came tearing in here super quickly, and now they seem to be leaving as quickly as they arrived. Very calm herd of elephants, although I don't think it'll stay that way for long, because this happens to be the herd that belongs to the young female elephant that we know as Susan. Well, I can't see her right now, thank goodness, because she always causes a little bit of trouble for us. She's a naughty elephant. She might be, I think that one there. Yeah, there's Susan. She's going to come and say hi, as she always does. Please don't mind me if I have to make a bit of noise, because they do need to learn that the vehicle is not a plaything. Susan! Hey now. Don't be silly now. Susan, don't be silly. So she's a young elephant that's very, very strangely interested in the vehicle, and I'm not sure why, what caused her to feel so like she wants to interact with the vehicles all the time. But she's quite young. She's probably less than 10 years old even. You see how close she came there. Hey, Susie. Now she's going behind the vehicle. Seb is dealing with her. She's a very silly little elephant. And this herd we know very well because they often come to this waterhole. But they tend to go away for a few weeks and they come back. But it's always so nice to see. And I'm glad to see that she seems to be mellowing. She's even a lot better than she used to be. She used to spend like 10 minutes just like playing around in front of the vehicle and doing all sorts of silly things. But now she's learning that the car is not a plaything. And these are the other siblings. And I'm hoping... See, there's a weird thing going on here. All these elephants are very playful today. Look how this one's even shaking its head and being silly. And look at that one over there. He's like doing a back roundhouse kick.
Which one?
This one right in front here, this one. It was like kicking backwards. It's like they just came from someplace really fun and they're trying to get the fun out of the system. Look what it's doing. It's literally just reversing into the other one. Young boys, eh? This is why they get kicked out of the herds. Because they start acting like this. Being too pushy and shovey, and then they end up hurting each other or hurting the females or whatever, and they get pushed out of the herds because it's obviously not good for them to be hurting the younger, smaller elephants. So look how playful they are. Gosh, I love the interactions that elephants have. And you can anthropomorphize so much with them, which is not, we shouldn't really do it. But look at that one, I was now grabbing the leg of... It's so weird. And like when my brother and I used to play fight, it was just like that. We would trip each other up and push each other and then wrestle and then play. Look at them all. These are all young bulls. Probably the oldest one is not more than about 17, 18 years old. Still very young. It's like this one here is probably at the age now where it's being pushed out of the herd. That's why it came last. It was the very last elephant to arrive here. It's probably being pressured away by mum and dad. Well, not mum and dad, mum and auntie. What a bully. Look at this elephant. My head's going to get in the way in a second. That's so interesting. He's really bullying his younger brother or sibling or friend. Goodbye. How cool is this? There really are some characters here. Interesting that the whole herd came and went so quickly. I don't know why they did that. They didn't stick around. Probably because of the behavior of these bulls. They're just a bit too energetic. I really wonder where they came from now to have all this pent-up energy. Maybe it's just exuberance for the day. I'm sure the 3 bulls that came a bit earlier, this is one of them that's coming out the water now. It's one of those 3 bulls that was here earlier. Oh, and there's a couple of very young elephants. That's very interesting to see that they're left behind. So we'll see a very small elephant coming out of the water now. Also probably a male, but interesting that it'd be so far from its mother. Let's see what it does. Is it going to stay with these ones? Maybe it's going to... Yeah, it looks like it's going to go and chase the other elephants. Do I ever get nervous with elephants? Yeah, I think you'd be a robot if you didn't get nervous sometimes with very large elephants coming towards the car. But when you have more experience, the more you spend time with elephants or in the bush, you start to pick up the signals on when an elephant is really showing an aggressive sign or whether it's just playful or just being curious. So I'm sure you've all seen at times the guides have to raise their hand up and maybe clap their hands lightly and just say, hey, letting the elephant know that don't come any closer. But I mean, I certainly would be able to pick up from a distance already if an elephant was in must or showing very aggressive signs, and I would have driven away from them, but they were just passing through and curious. So no, I mean, getting nervous, yes. Being afraid, not so much. You've got to respect always the animals. More splashing happening as these elephants push each other into the water. Yeah, one of my first ever scary elephant experiences was as an eco-training student, or rather what we call a backup or an apprentice trails guide, on a vehicle just like this in Botswana. And I was leading the safari as part of my training, and I blocked accidentally... Oh, there's more elephants coming even. Oh, there goes my head in the way. I blocked an elephant female from her youngster, and then she charged at the vehicle, and it was quite scary. But when I moved out of the way and let her baby have space, then she was fine again. So look at this elephant, look how it's acting. It's a young elephant, and it was like this when it arrived. It was shaking its head and acting all strange. I think it's just because they've been playing around with each other, chasing and pushing each other, because their tails are up when they're running off, but we've just been sitting here. So it's nothing to do with us. It's all to do with their interaction with each other. Now you can hear them trumpeting in the background as well. That's really interesting. Well, there you go. They came, they saw, they conquered. Big arguments. It's so interesting. The elephants are very chatty today. I really wonder what's going on. Maybe there is a storm coming, I said. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe there's some pressure or something in the air. There's something in the water, maybe. I don't know. That was cool. Now it's quiet. Who knows what's going to come next? Maybe the buffaloes. Well, from that excitement, let's send you over to awesome lions at Rengala.
Well, these lions haven't shown more sign of movement, so none of the typical yawning or grooming that we would like to see from them. But they are starting to get a bit restless. I mean, they're rolling around quite a lot. Every now and again, some of the sub-adults pick up their heads and have a quick look around before flopping back over to sleep. So I think it's just a matter of time until they decide to move. Listen, I don't know if you can hear that. Directly behind us is Impala's alarm calling. All of the sub-adults have reacted now. I wonder, in the last couple of days, what has been happening is the sub-adult, or that young male of this pride, has been following very close by. And because the males are here, he's not within the pride, because he just gets chased away. And so there's a very good chance that those alarm calls might be from that young male. And this is the first time we've seen this big, gorgeous male pick up his head. And he's reacting. Okay, so we've finally just seen the other white lion. So this is the male. And he too is starting to get restless. Look at his mane starting to grow. It's amazing to think that 2 years ago he was pretty much the size of his paw. He's growing incredibly quickly. And that mane starting to go that off-white color. Oh, big yawn. Whatever is causing those alarm calls hasn't really interested the lions. I mean, they picked up their head and looked and listened, but the majority of them have now put down their heads again. There's only one that's starting to do exactly what this male is in frame. So he's yawning, looking around. But I'd imagine they might just flop back to sleep. And they're still quite dependent on the females, and so they'll only really move around and move from where they are now if they are cued by some of the adult lionesses. So that one at the back left there, that's one of the ones with her head up, and then the other one who was showing all of the signs of getting active have actually just put her head down again, is going to carry on snoozing. Almost looks like she's trying to use a very flexible branch as a pillow. See, that's her. And she is such a beautiful specimen. I mean, I love it when they're this age, these young females. They're just so pretty. They've got such clean faces, and I love the pink nose with that black border. And then just all of the different colors that you can see. I mean, those chestnutty eyebrows that don't go across, but rather up from the eye. Then the markings of the eye themselves. They have got incredible genes. So that I thought that one who stood up at something, see how she's looking back. I think she's just getting very irritated by a fly at the moment. And so she's losing. This is exciting news. I think what we might do is just quickly check to see if that lioness and her two cubs might be a bit more active, and if there's some action happening here, we might return.
Quite a few of you have been asking which animals like to cohabit in burrows, and I found this particular burrow system one day driving down the road, and there was a drag mark going across the road, and I thought, well, maybe that's a python, let me follow it. And then when I looked carefully, there were little porcupine tracks, and the porcupine had been carrying a bone, dragging a bone, all the way back to the den. But we came here to see who's actually been here, and we found that the warthog and the porcupine were both here within the last sort of 48 hours since the rain. So we assume it has been recorded before that they cohabit, so live in the same place. But we've got an interesting thing to show you here. You can see these little sort of, you're looking for that shape in there. That's the little hooves of the warthog. So coming in fresh since the rain, you can see how the rain has changed the soil, and that's on top. And then we follow the little pig. There's probably, I can see at least 2, maybe 3 pigs, so probably mummy and some piglets into the hole there. And then, oh, Darby, I'm going to brave a jump across the hole. Hopefully I don't fall in. And then you can even see signs of sort of rubbing coming out the hole. I've looked and I don't think the warthog is in there, but I'm going to be very sorry for myself if it does come out. And then what we can see here, this area over here, we're seeing the tracks of the porcupine. So you're seeing the little claw marks. Let me just use a pointer. So there's the claws of the porcupine, there's the toes, and there's that sort of back pad. Both of them since the rain. So Darby's going to show you the nice little hole going in. I'm going to jump across again so I can come. So you can see we also never really have an idea of exactly how deep they go. But this burrow is actually collapsed in a section, probably from some heavy rains a while ago already. But what we can see here, the last time I came here, there was only 1 hole. Now there are 2. So it could be that porcupine is living on one side. So we can effectively call this house A and B. And one of them is living in A and one of them is living in B. But what you can see is just look how deep that is underneath the soil. So when it gets really, really hot in the Kalahari, if you're under the soil that far down, it's a nice, cool place. You can even see probably a piece of a bone in this side, which would have come from the porcupine. They'll drag bones to their den to gnaw on them to firstly get the calcium, which probably help them with quill growth, as well as to help them wear down their teeth, because they are rodents, so their teeth are meeting. Their incisors, top and bottom, need to constantly be worn down while they want, so that they're able to continue to eat. And lots of porcupine quills and everything. I can see lots of small quills, so probably also a nice little family that lives down here. But isn't that just amazing? So whether they live in the same hole or not, we can't say. The freshest tracks look like everybody's going into the one here on the left. But yeah, just really, really interesting to see, and how deep they actually are. Hammond, that's a good question. Would sort of separate burrows link further inside? It's very possible. I asked Darby to volunteer to go down there, and he said, "Are you being serious?" So, of course I wasn't being serious, Darby. It is potentially that there would have been a pig or something in there. So nobody knows unless we sent like a rover cam in there to see what's happening. But there is a possibility that there could be some form of interconnection underneath the ground. I'm just amazed at how deep that is. The entrance is probably just over 1 meter below the soil, and then even this one on the side, it has got quite a slope going right down into the back area there. So this would have just collapsed because of the burrow system, because of the original tunnel, and then maybe just with really sort of heavy rains, the sand was very soft. It could have been something like a large animal, if you think about a giraffe or eland or something, that could have sort of stepped in that area and the burrow collapsed. And then over time, as the rain has fallen, it's opened it up into a much bigger tube or chamber, should I say. But I mean, you can see here even the roots. It actually also gives you a very good showing of the roots of the blackthorn, just how they're running underground in order to get access to water. So you just see the tree and you don't know what's actually going on under the ground, but that's just giving you an idea of how wide you have to spread your roots to anchor yourself, but also how you can then get access to water. That's just awesome. I mean, this porcupine's been here for quite a while, and the warthogs seem to be relatively new residents at the den. Darby, you have to go behind us and have a look at those clouds. That's just, while I'm lying down here, I'm looking up and I just see that, and it just shows you that there's very, very strong winds very high up that are making those beautiful, beautiful patterns. And then sort of on the slightly northern horizon, much bigger thunder clouds looking pretty ominous for tomorrow. So this is another one of those burrows that would be worthwhile sitting at in the winter season. Are the insects biting you, Darby? Darby's doing a little tap dance. As he's standing there, the insects are biting him on his legs. Beautiful little tap dance. So if you saw the camera shake a little bit, that's because the insects are biting Darby a little bit. It is hot. So we're going to head on and see what else we can find you. But we just thought we had to show you the cohabitation there of the porcupine and warthog.
It's a bee in the village.
Welcome to Rengala, everyone. Like I said in my last little segment, we are on our way to that lioness with her 2 cubs. BK and I have just been marveling in the scene that we have with us on our left. So beautiful sunset with the Drakensberg Mountains and those clouds is just really stunning. The reason why I'm driving quite quickly through here is I'd like to get to that lioness with her 2 cubs. She was active and the cubs were playing around, and nobody's there at the moment. So I'd hate for them to disappear and we won't be able to find them. So although this is beautiful and would love to sit and watch it, I think we've got a really nice potential of some good sightings with that lioness and her 2 cubs. So I'm just going to keep a nice solid pace through here whilst BK works his magic and shows you what Rengala has to offer this afternoon. Look at all of these dead trees through here. See if you can spot a baobab. I might just stop and show you the 3 baobabs that we have in Rengala. They are pretty much, it's actually 4, but there's 3 that are. See them there, directly to the left. There we go. There's our impressive baobabs in the world, but maybe when we come back here in 500 years' time, they'll be big and beautiful. So we've just got one little corner to get to, and then we are at those lions. It is just so vibrant. I love summertime. in the bush. It's awesome. So we should, I'm going to start slowing down here. Everyone saying how still is looking. I cannot agree more. That's yeah. Okay. So, there we go. Found them. And watching this half a lion's ear, and look at them, they are out in the open, and it looks like those two are going to cause some mischief. So that's why I wanted to get you as quickly as we could. There we go. So we're not going to see them in that beautiful golden light, but we've got enough light to watch them. I think once they've stopped watching us, they might go back to being naughty little cubs. And so she is not far from the rest of the pride. And the way that she's facing, if she gets up and moves in that direction, I think she'll hopefully bump into them. These two haven't taken their eyes off of us yet. That one that's looking at us, the one at the back, look at how long the hair is. They've both actually got very, very long ear hair. The lion type of day. We've got lions here at Rengala. Lauren's also got lions, so let's go over to her.
The Talamatis are slowly starting to wake up. Just as that sun, the last bit of the sun, is sinking, it's so much cooler. I can feel the relief. And way, way off in the distance, see there? We have one in isolation. Just decided, I think it's one of the females. Oh, very difficult to tell from here. Just deciding, nope, I need some alone time. Everybody needs alone time. The rest of the pride are really far away on the dam wall here. Now, we've got an individual here, Simon, really interested in something. I think it's one of the sub-adults. There's 9 sub-adults as part of the Talamati pride. No, down near the water's edge. I've already had a drink, so I don't think it's water. Oh, are you interested in a blacksmith lapwing? Oh, lapwing. You don't know what you're letting yourself in for here. Was that what you were interested in, Lion? Yes, it was. Now you're going to sleep. Fabulous. Young cats love to play, but they're all slowly starting to get mobile. Well, sorry, not mobile. That's probably not the right word. They're starting to get more active. That's probably the correct terminology there. You can hear all the frogs. Now, I believe when I was on leave just a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now, the Nkuhumas did grace us with their presence on Djuma. But really, if we start to add up, if we start to do the maths, the amount of time the Talamatis are spending on Djuma in comparison to the Nkuhumas. It's definitely more the Talamatis. And although they're both neighbouring prides and territory shifts constantly, they're very fluid. In the 2.5 years that 2 and a bit years that I've been in Djuma, I used to never see the Talamatis. I only got lucky once. They used to pop into Djuma, yes, but only on the northern boundary. So possibly Bufosuk Dam or just anywhere on the northern fire break, and then they would turn and leave. They probably could sense that odour fence put up by the Nkuhumas. They can penetrate it if they wish, but they always stayed on Bufosuk. But now, they're coming into Djuma very, very regularly. They're on Bufosuk right now, but they're also spending time on Torchwood and Chitwa. That never, ever used to happen. Oh, there's the injured one. Oh, girl. She looks like she's healing well. She's lying on it. Oh. Not so gracefully either. It can't be that painful if she's lying on it. It looked like it was healing. She was putting weight on it. That's good. They're all starting to get up now. We've got 3 mobile. Smelling something. Rachi, no, not when they're scared. They do vocalize, and it's normally for communication. It's either long distance communication to communicate with pride members, or territorial. Not when they're scared. And to be... That's one wants cuddles, one does not. And there's not many things out here lions will be scared of. And the only time you'll see a female lion really react is possibly at something like a matriarchal takeover. Not matriarchal, sorry. Coalition takeover. I'm thinking of my hyenas there. And lions, especially when they're in numbers like this, 5 adult lionesses, 9 sub-adults, and normally a dominant male with them. There's really not much that would scare a lion. If they're on their own, then that's a different scenario. But no, they roar. 2 reasons: for territory and to contact one another if they split. Communication. They've all moved about a metre or so and they're flat again. This is the one that's missing the fluffy black tip at the end of its tail. Let me just have a look at that tail, so you see? No black tip. A great... A lot. They sleep a lot. There's a sort of myth that lions will sleep 20 hours on a day and active for 4, but that's not correct. Because they are nocturnal, they're more active at night. And when we see them, we mostly see them during the day, so they're sleepy and they get a reputation for being very lazy. But it's all about energetics. It's all about the energy budget. And if they've had a night of hunting and territorial patrol and been very, very active, they're going to need to sleep during the day, just like we sleep at nighttime. I'm trying so hard to read this new book I got and I can't get past page 2. I keep falling asleep because I've been so active during the day, I'm tired at night. And it's just the complete opposite for lions. But they do sleep a lot. They love their sleep. No organism, be it a tiny mosquito or a nudibranch or a lion can go into energy deficit. It may happen, but for survival, they always need to stay in the surplus with energy, keep their energy levels topped up in order to survive. So I think we're going to stay with the Talamatis a little while longer. We're going to send you across to Andrew for another silent moment.
I'm feeling a bit like I've just had a bit of commentator's curse. I'm getting so excited about these lions, active and playful. And we might have missed the playfulness because now they look like they are exhausted and sleepy. I think they were spent the whole afternoon running and chasing each other around. We probably just got here a little bit too late. And the lioness is still looking around and she's weighing up her options. So she's scanning all over the place. So she's looking down towards the river, which is the direction that she's facing now. And then you just see how she listens. And then she turns back almost at 180 degrees. So I think she's just doing her best to try and work out the direction that she might try and move on from this evening. And sitting still and listening just gives her that opportunity to hear what's going on around her. And so if those lions that we were just with decided to call at this distance, she'll definitely be able to hear them. And she might head in that direction. She might even hear wildebeest communicating to their calves as they're settling down for the evening, or impalas doing the same thing. So it's important. I think it's something that us as people in the bush and as guides might not do enough, is just to have that opportunity to sit in the quiet and the still, to listen and work out the stuff that's going on around us. These two are so cute. You see the one in the foreground that's grooming, she's got a slightly lighter color than, or sorry, he does, a slightly lighter color than his sister, who's slightly further back. But still very spotty on the back legs. But, I mean, most of the torso is, that's typical adult lion color, although you can still see, if you look very closely around the torso, you can see those spots from when they were very small cubs. So, Jonathan, you're asking what lions hunt the most, and I think it's quite dependent on a few things. Firstly, the area. If lions tend to, or if they're in certain areas and there's an abundance of one animal, you might find that that's the one that they hunt the most. And it also depends on the size of the pride that's hunting at that time. So this lioness herself, she would probably target something as big as a zebra or a wildebeest. But then if she were to go and join her great aunties, that's a lot more manpower, and she'll easily be able to, here's the playfulness, hopefully, they'll easily be able to target bigger things like buffaloes and giraffe and other things like that. It was quite interesting. We've got this really sophisticated data system that we log all of our sightings in at the end of each day. And it just captures it in detail, and it gives us a nice report kind of at the end of each month and at the end of each year. And the most kills and the most animals that we've seen lions feeding here on Rengala is actually Impala, which I was completely surprised by. We would think that this big pride would only go after zebras and wildebeest and buffalo, giraffe, but we've seen lions eating and killing more impalas than any other animal for the last year and a half. So this is what I was waiting for, and I hope it just starts getting more and more playful. They look like they're in two minds. Don't know whether to play or to sleep. So they'll do half of both. Both hitting each other on their foreheads. So Mama Bear, these cubs are 8 months, I think, 8.5 months. I'm just trying to do the maths in my head, yeah. I think we knew that this lioness was denning at the end of April, maybe beginning of May. May, June, July, August, September, October. Yeah, so that's, maybe it was closer to May. But anyway, I think they're 8.5, 9 months old already. We first saw them when they were only several weeks old. And I was actually lucky enough to see the mother carrying one of the cubs across the riverbed for the very first time. So that's a sighting that I won't forget in my lifetime. And I'm trying to think when that was. I'm sure it was around April, May. And she's mostly been spending her time separated from the pride. So she's pretty much brought these cubs up all by herself, and for a first-time mother, she's done incredibly well. And this area's got such a high density of other predators. I mean, there's lots and lots of hyenas, leopards, and there's lots of potential threats that an inexperienced mother, if she didn't take them into consideration, could quite easily lose cubs but she has done very, very well. Look how sharp those claws are. So, David, I'm not entirely sure if lions do go into REM sleep like we do. It was something that I don't know if any research has been done on that sleep. But, I mean, when lions are sleeping, they tend to still be quite alert, and so they'll react to noises that are around them. And so especially these cubs, if they've got their heads down and say, for example, a noisy elephant were to walk past, they'll react incredibly quickly. So I don't think they go into too much of a deep sleep. Although lions, male lions, I've seen a whole herd of elephants walk straight past them and they haven't reacted. And I don't know whether they kind of hear them, know that they're elephants, understand that they're not a threat, so they don't need to react, or they're sleeping and they don't register that they're moving past. But it'll be an interesting question to do some research about, so I'll definitely see if I can find a proper answer for you. Yeah, I would imagine that they don't really go too much of a REM sleep. Yeah, so it looks like these cubs have done a little bit of playing and it's rest time again. And so we're going to send you across to Lauren.
Another bull elephant is on the scene. I don't think he's noticed or is aware that the lions are up on the dam wall. He's got a very short left tusk. I think it's broken, actually, rather than being worn down. And just to touch back on the two lion prides, not for 1 second am I suggesting the Talamatis pushed Nkuhumas out. No way, shape or form. That did not happen. With territories, they will constantly change. And a sort of any species, be it solitary or social, will always try to gain more advantage, get a bigger territory, get more females, or get better food, get more areas with water. And for the Nkuhumas, when they started, they were very much, Djuma is Nkuhuma land. And when they started to push a little bit further south, they were ending up on Mala Mala and even further down. It was due to food. They were going after the food. They were going after the buffalo at that time. And they were obviously trying to expand their territory, which is completely normal. The bigger the territory, the more survival benefits for any species. And in the spot down there, they were obviously getting lots of sort of good food. There was plenty water, and they started to spend a lot more time down south. But they were also coming back up north as well, and they're pushing west. Expanding their territory is completely normal. So by having a bigger area, that ultimately means they're going to spend less time in specific areas, and I think that ended up being Djuma. Now, it's the exact same for the Talamatis. They're also pushing downwards. No one's kicking one another out. It's just a case of Talamatis were normally found mostly on Bufelshoek, which is a very large property, it's larger than Djuma, and they've started pushing down. The bigger the territory, the better. So they're very aware of one another. The Talamatis will be able to recognize the Nkuhumas solely by scent. They will understand, and I would not be surprised if they recognize the Nkuhumas' calls as well. But it's just been a shift. Nothing's changed. Nobody's been pushed. There's just been a slight shift. Both prides in their prime. Lots of cubs or sub-adults expanding. Summer now. They're just trying to expand the area that they traverse. They're traversing rights. Just like Wild Earth have expanded their traverse here. And there's just been a shift naturally. So within that shift, of course, there's overlaps. It by no means has any pride pushed one another out. It's just a case of movement. And I spoke to someone in the west the other day, and they had Tingana very far southwest from Djuma, and they said it's great to see him again. This was his original stomping grounds. And then, of course, Tingana moved into Djuma, and now he roams Buffelshoek. So it's just a natural progression, a natural shift. Things will always shift in nature. Nothing will stay static. And it may change again. The Nkohumas may come back and spend a lot more time up north. Ultimately, food and water is really what matters to a pride. And of course, the coalitions, the more prides they have, the more mating opportunities they will have. Everyone's starting to get up. And territories, to be a territory holder is just a very selfish, innate thing. When you actually read about it, it's you claiming land or areas or resources as yours. But it's a lot of work to do it. You've got to really put the effort. You've got to really put the effort in to claim something as yours, because there's always competitors around the corner. And that's where territorial behavior comes in. Protect your land, protect your own, protect your offspring from thy enemy. And to do that, they vocalize and they scent mark. They create an odor fence around the entire area that they traverse, so that any intruder will understand, yes, okay, this is actually an area that belongs to someone. Okay, yeah, this belongs to the Talamatis. Shall I cross and go in anyway? Why not? Maybe I won't. It really, really depends. Odor fences are not blocks. They're not real fences. Completely penetrable, but it's a warning sign. It's a chemical warning sign to others. This is where the are. If you decide to cross this, you're asking for trouble. But it doesn't mean that they won't overlap, and it doesn't mean that they won't cross over, or they won't both share core areas. And it's fascinating, even in the short time that I've been here, you can see changes in movements, changes in territory, changes in behavior. Dispersal of one adult, like Hosanna, leaves room for others. Tingana going nomadic was probably a choice of Mulwati coming in, and it's just a knock-on effect on every player in the ecological game of life. If everything stayed the same, if every territory was fixed, no one could survive, really. No. Oh, what's this coming in over here? Is it a hyena? I'm struggling to see now. We're losing light. Yep, we've got a hyena on the scene. Strolling casually, not a care in the world. Oh, there's lions. I just realized. They're watching it. Say they hate one another. I guess that's a very strong word, but they're competitors, and it's all about survival. Oh, the hyena's running. I think you've got yourself cornered here, hyena. But yes, it's competition. More leopards there are, the less food for lions. The more lions there are, the less food for leopards. It's just competition. And in such an area that we are in right now, in the sort of, at least the northern sector, the Sabi Sands, the predator density is so high that they're going to regularly bump into one another. And what we're looking at right now is two apex predators. Yes, hyenas are termed scavengers, but they're both top predators here. I'm actually going to move forward a little bit. I think we'll manage to go forward, Simon. They need to sort of habit. They both exist in the same land. They live sympatrically, but they're competitors. You can see the hyena through here. Got a lion here, but everyone else has disappeared. So I'm not sure if hate's the right word, but yes, they're definitely not friends. And what's even worse is that's interspecific competition between species. But in most predators, you'll have intraspecific, and that's when the same species will fight and compete and be rivals. For example, two lion prides, two hyena clans. So there's competition everywhere, out with your own species and in with your own species. I don't think this hyena quite knows where to go. Oh. Hyena, please be careful. There's a lot of lions here. Now, this was a hyena just going about its evening, ready to inhale all the scents and decide which way to go for the night. And of course, just bumped into an entire pride of lions. The lions are on the move. I think we're going to follow. We may have to go into IR soon. We're losing a lot of light. But I think we are going to follow the Talamatis and see where they end up. So if they go into the thicket, I will not follow, but if they stay on the road, we'll try and see how long we can keep up with the Talamati pride.
There's a grounding earthiness to this place that we feel in our ancestors. It's a place where, believe it or not, we evolved as a human species, and anyone who's come to Africa will understand that. The connectivity that the continent has to the person and to people's souls is next level. I am thoroughly looking forward to taking you on your next adventure when we explore all the small and big things.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. Wild Earth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, Wild Earth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. Wild Earth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
My name is James Hendry, and I work here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. My favorite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
And you're live.
So what does this remind you of? For me, it has to be one of my highlight sightings in the last couple of days is those little bat-eared fox ears just above the eland bean. But I'm also here to tell you that as sun sets, it'll be my last drive for at least this year, and I'm going to hand you guys all over to JP, who I've known for more than 5 years, but he has a wealth of knowledge. He's been guiding as long as I have, about 20, and he's spent many years in the Kalahari, so I'm completely confident I'm handing him over to somebody very capable. And for the birders, definitely.
Thank you, Deirdre. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone at 5:30 Central African time tomorrow morning.
Hopefully they are too, JP. That's a beautiful sunset. That was our sort of parting gift.
So I started there, so I don't know if you want to put your legs up again, because I was on the sunset, so...
Well, okay.
Must we do it all?
What are we practicing? Was it?
Yeah, there we go. There we go, heads down. Yeah, okay, thank you. I'm back on the sunset.
This is absolutely amazing. I think Darby just wants us to do like belly ups.
I like to do flutter kicks.
We have left those lines, as you can see, and we are driving around looking for any little nocturnal critters at the moment. I'm sure you've noticed we are now in essentially black and white, so BK has just turned the camera on to infrared, and that is just in case we see an animal that just causes the least amount of impact on their eyes. And so we'll use the spotlight that I've got in my hand to find it. And once we found it, we'll turn the spotlight off and just use the infrared light. So I'd love to try and find something cool. And when we are driving through an area which is very dense, so we're heading towards the river again, and we're just going to meander along the southern bank of the Timbavati and see if we can find anything around there. There were tracks of a young male leopard apparently that were not too far from where we are, but directly opposite us, so on the northern bank of the river. And so it might be worth us trying to find him. Otherwise, something I'd really love to show you is that African scops owl that I was mentioning a little bit earlier on in the day. So that will be a very good challenge. The best thing to do is just listen for the call. And when you hear the call, just shine in the tree and try and find it. It's got a very unique call. It doesn't sound anything owl-like, and I'll try and mimic it, but I'm not the best animal sound mimic. So it goes something like this. So it's got that small little tone, and you can literally count. It will be one little call every 4 or 5 seconds, and it's just constant throughout the night. The first time I ever saw that African Scops owl was in Mana Pools when we were traveling around there with my family in 2010, and we were camped underneath a tree and we heard it calling, and my mom was actually the first one to find it and point it out to us. Viola, I'm not sure. You know, I don't know if they see in color. I'm just not sure in what colors. You know, a lot of birds have got they've got 4 different color spectrums, whereas the human eye's just got 3. But because they're nocturnal, it might be a similar thing to lions and leopards, where they've got a small rods in their eyes, which is adapted for seeing at nighttime, rather than having the 4th spectrum where they see the vivid colors that other birds might have. So Viola, unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that one. It's a question that I'll just have to try and read up about. They don't necessarily use their eyesight to hunt, but it is helpful for them to see as best as they can at nighttime. They typically use their ears. And owls have got quite an interesting setup. They've got one ear that's slightly lower and backwards, and one ear's up and forward. And it just allows them to pinpoint the noises much better than if they were right next to each other and symmetrical on either side of their face. And so they will listen out, and they can literally pinpoint where a mouse is rustling in the grass, and will be able to swoop down and catch it like that. And they are such silent flyers as well, so that also helps. When they're on the wing, they're able to hear, and then they're also not making too much noise that might frighten away their prey. So just around the corner over here is a very small pan. And so if that male leopard was wanting to cross the river and have something to drink, it would be a good place for him to come. Kieran, we have got 6 different owls that we find here at Rengala. So we'll name them with the one and only African Scops owl. He'll always be the first one. Then we get the Rose eagle owl. That's the biggest owl that we find in southern Africa. It used to be called a giant eagle owl. Sorry. Then we get the pearl-spotted owlet, which is quite a common one here. The barred owlet. We get the spotted eagle owl and the southern white-faced owl. There's an owl. I don't know. See him there. And it's got something in its mouth. Oh, that was cool. I wonder what it was. It must have been, it looked like it could have been an insect or something. And it just flew away before we could see it. So that was one of the barred owlets, or the pearl-spotted. I didn't actually get a good enough look at it. I was too busy trying to sort the light out. If any of the viewers manage to get an idea on it, it will be awesome to let us know. I would lean towards a barred owlet. I think I saw quite a deep white V from the shoulders down the back. And it's quite a good way to identify the barred owlet. All right. So we are just approaching that pan. And so let's hopefully find something cool that's coming down to drink. Okay, so that little pan is just around the corner over here. There is a wildebeest in the road. I'm not going to shine him, or shine on him at least. As we drive past them, especially because we can still see quite nicely, so instead of shining him with those bright lights of the vehicle on the spotlight, just switch off, drive past him, and there's a whole herd of wildebeest there. Okay, so I think it is somewhere down here on the left-hand side. Joy, typically cheetahs won't hunt at night time. And I say typically because, you know, they do occasionally hunt throughout the night. And it just depends on where they are. So if they're in an area that they're the apex predator, and they feel that they're not going to get chased away by the nocturnal predators like lions, leopards, hyenas, you know, then they'll feel comfortable hunting at nighttime. But they tend not to hunt. Oh, maybe this will be a good challenge for us. We've got a nightjar in the road. But Joy, they're mostly diurnal. If it's a good full moon, you might find that they'll try and hunt at night. So the reason why I've stopped to have a look here is because we also have migratory nightjars that come visit us here within the Kruger. And there's one called a European nightjar that I've actually never ticked off my list because I haven't had the confidence to ID it properly. And this one's got lots and lots of rufous on it, and so I'm leaning towards a fiery neck nightjar, the most common one here that we get throughout the whole entire year. But they are so tricky. I mean, it sometimes boils down to what a couple of the wing feathers look like between the different species. Yeah, I would lean towards fiery necked just because of that rufous. And I think the European is also a little bit bigger than the fiery neck nightjar. Yeah, lots of, I don't know, maybe I can just put the book up because I don't know if we're seeing it in black and white, I don't know if we'll get a good idea. So this is the one I'm looking at, and the rufous that I'm talking about is around this neck, so you might just see that different shade of color. Unfortunately, we don't have the color with the IR light. But the European is this one over here. And this one, in the book, it's actually all completely grayish brown. And it doesn't have very much white on the wing panels like the fiery neck does. And so I think it's pretty safe to say that it is a fire. So you're unable to tick off European. We'll keep trying. The easiest nightjar to identify actually in the breeding season is one called a pennant-winged nightjar that I've been lucky enough to see. And they are beautiful because the males have got these big long streamers. They're probably about 30 centimeters long that come down from the wing. And they use them to display and attract. I often see them doing this very aerobatic flight, looking and showing off the wing feathers for the females. Okay, so this span was a bit further than I expected. I didn't realize how far along the road we were back there, but it is now coming up. On the right hand side, it is a very, very small pan. What is that? Just a log. False alarm. Okay, here we go, Beaks. It's on the right over here. It's got enough water to interest a predator to come and have something to drink. But otherwise not too much going on here. All right, I think we keep going. You see anything, BK? All right, let's keep going. Okay. What I was saying a bit earlier on when I was with those lions is sometimes we don't spend enough time listening to the nature. And I think it would be a nice thing for you to go across to a waterhole and do exactly that.
So I was really lucky they said that you wanted to join us for the grand finale for tonight. But look, I can't speak more than nature. Just look at that. That's just absolutely stunning. We're really lucky in the Kalahari that the sun sets here at least half an hour later than everybody else. So we have amazing, amazing sunsets. And just when there's clouds in the sky, those colors indescribable. And if I had to describe my sort of, I think it's only been about 10 days. It feels like it's been a whole lot longer than that. Highlights for me from the last 10 days, of course, top of the charts has to be the little rockets coming out yesterday morning. That was really cute. A highlight that Davy remembered was the snake in the sociable weaver's nest. So if any of you haven't watched Safari Live, you have to go backwards for the last 10 days if you want to see any of these things. And what else has been good for? What do you remember from your highlights with me in Tswali over the last few days? The funny one has to be Licorice, the horse, deciding that he wants to drive the car, and then Comanche saying, no, he wants to drive the car. So we nearly had a horse safari. It would have been interesting to see. There was horsepower powering the horsepower of the Land Rover. It would have been quite interesting. But we really, really are fortunate. So I'm only gone until next year. I'm sure I'll pop up and do a cameo appearance maybe every now and again. But I'm definitely leaving you in capable hands, whether it's JP, whether it's Kyle, whether it's Moritz. So Tyler agrees with me. Her highlight was baby meerkats. I'd have to say another one for me would, although I wasn't the one live when I was with Kyle, in my career, 20 years, I've never seen a butterfly come out of its chrysalis. And it was literally in 2 minutes it was all over. And we were standing there sharing that moment with all of you. And for me, it was absolutely awesome. We made Owen stay there probably for another 20 minutes, maybe even up to half an hour, going, we have to find another one. And Owen's like, we can move on. So it has also been awesome working with all the different teams out there, as well as with Davy on camera this last little bit, as well as Owen on camera. And I know Davy will look after JP very well. There's some good coaching going on in the background there, so hopefully you don't have some blunders and boo-boos. I'd love to see the bloopers reel. We probably have quite a good bloopers reel for the whole of Wild Earth, I'm sure. We've had some crash cut bloopers which have been quite funny. Oh, the little barking geckos are starting. So one thing I'll work on for next time is some of my bird calls. I haven't been that great at those. Are there any other highlights from your last week? Leslie's asking if the horse is okay. Yes, Licorice got bitten by that puffer a long time ago, and he bounced back relatively quickly. It was literally within 4 days. Old Licorice was like himself again. He is the cheekiest pony in the stable yard. He's actually the only pony in the stable yard, and he is by far the cheekiest little pony that we have. He's our stable's mascot, but Licorice is fine. So it's one of the really, really nice things you can do in the Kalahari here is go on a horse ride. And some of you will even remember Rusty Steele that used to be on at Djuma. He's my equestrian manager. He's here. Lorna's saying bat-eared foxes, her highlights. Absolutely. I've handed over exactly where the den is for JP. I've suggested that he goes there in the afternoon. So cross fingers, maybe he has the luck that we didn't have and manages to show you those new little pups. I've seen a photo of them, so they are really, really cute. Really worth the patience to wait. But there's a last view of the Karaneberg mountain range for the day. I'm just hoping that the weather holds out for you. It's been, we've been really, really lucky. We've been chased away by 1 or 2 lightning storms, but that is the Kalahari for you. So they tell me 30 seconds, 30. So that means hold on to your seats. We've only got a few seconds left for me to say thank you to everybody, and even the tech teams, Final Control, all the cameramen, all the other crews out there. You're doing an amazing job, and we hope to see you soon, and definitely tomorrow, Central African time, 5:30. Don't forget, be there.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to Ambion Phinda Private Game Reserve. This morning we are looking for that cheetah with that tiny little cub, but in the meantime we've stopped at one of our more beautiful watering holes. As you can see, there's a large amount of bird activity here this morning, lots of hippo, even a few impala.